In this video, I'm about to show you 10 Aldi brand products you need to stop buying and 5 you should actually be putting in your trolley, starting with the ones that'll cost you more than you think. Let's get into it. Number 10. Farmdale Full Cream Milk. Let me start with something that hits close to home milk, good old full cream milk. Something that should be simple, honest and straightforward. Farmdale is Aldi's house brand milk, and it looks perfectly fine on the shelf. Big white label, reasonable price. But here's what they don't put on the label. Farmdale milk is ultra-high temperature pasteurized UHT, processed at temperatures above 135 degrees Celsius. Now, I know that sounds like science class, but here's what it means in plain English. They're heating that milk to the point where it lasts longer on the shelf, but they're also destroying a significant chunk of the beneficial enzymes and heat-sensitive vitamins in the process. A 2019 review published in the International Dairy Journal found that UHT processing reduces vitamin B12 content by up to 30% compared to standard pasteurization methods. That's not nothing, especially for older Australians, where B12 deficiency is already one of the most underdiagnosed nutritional problems. And on top of that, there have been ongoing complaints on Australian consumer forums, including productreview.com.au about batch inconsistency. Some cartons smell slightly off before the use-by date. Some have a faint cooked or chalky flavour that proper fresh milk simply does not have. Dairy farmers themselves have spoken out about how supermarket private label milk pricing squeezes supply chains to the absolute limit, and when margins are that thin, quality control suffers. You're paying less. But what are you actually getting? If you're going to drink milk every single day, and most of us do, you deserve better than a product engineered to sit on a shelf longer rather than nourish you better. Number 9. Beaumont Coffee Capsules. Right, coffee. Let's talk about it. Beaumont is Aldi's answer to Nespresso-compatible capsules, and they market it like you're getting a European cafe experience for a fraction of the price. And look, the price is genuinely good. I'll give them that. But then, you actually make the coffee. The extraction is weak, thin. You get this pale, watery cup that smells better than it tastes. And the reason for that comes down to one thing: coffee density and grind consistency inside the capsule. Independent coffee testing done by Choice Australia found that several budget Nespresso-compatible capsules, including store-brand options sold at major Australian discounters, contained a lower proportion of specialty-grade Arabica beans and leaned heavily on Robusta fillers. Robusta is cheaper, more bitter, and has a harsher caffeine hit without the complexity. Beaumont capsules also have inconsistent sealing across batches, which means oxygen gets in, the coffee stales faster, and what you're brewing has already started losing its volatile aromatics before it even hits your cup. I talked to a mate who used to work in food manufacturing, and he said budget capsule lines often run on older sealing equipment because the investment in new machinery doesn't make sense at that price point. For a retired person, having their 1 or 2 cups a day that morning ritual matters. Don't waste it on a capsule that gives you dishwater with a brown color. Number 8. Diplomat Butter. Butter is one of those things that shouldn't be complicated. Cream, salt, done, cream. But Diplomat Aldi's house brand butter has a fat content that fluctuates in a way that genuinely affects how it performs in cooking and baking. Australian standard butter must contain a minimum of 80% milk fat. Diplomat sits right at that legal minimum, and some batches, according to testing reported by Australian food bloggers and home bakers on platforms like Whirlpool forums, come in noticeably softer and greasier than comparable products. That's a sign of fat instability, likely tied to the cream blending and churning process being optimized for cost rather than consistency. When you bake with inconsistent butter, a sponge cake, shortbread, Anzac biscuits, the fat ratio affects how your dough holds together. Batches come out flatter, greasier, or don't set properly. And for cooking, butter that separates too easily leaves your pan with a watery residue instead of a clean, rich melt. It's not dangerous, but it's a disappointment every time. And for something as fundamental as butter, something Australians have been using in their kitchens for generations, you shouldn't have to play the lottery every time you unwrap a block. Number 7. Baker's Life. White bread. Baker's Life is Aldi's bread line, and it is one of the most additive-heavy loaves you'll find on any Australian supermarket shelf at that price point. Let me read you something from the ingredient list, and I'm going to keep it simple because the list is anything but. Baker's Life white bread contains calcium propionate as a preservative that's additive to A2. A 2002 study published in the Journal of Pediatric Child Health found that calcium propionate was associated with irritability, restlessness, and sleep disturbance in children. But here's what they don't talk about enough for older adults, especially those with digestive sensitivities. Propionate-heavy breads can contribute to gut discomfort and bloating. Australian naturopath communities have flagged additive 282 as one of the most commonly reported triggers for unexplained digestive complaints in adults over 60. On top of that, Baker's Life uses multiple dough conditioners datum, sodium stearoyl lactylate compounds that speed up industrial bread production but contribute zero nutritional value. The result is a loaf that feels artificially fluffy, compresses into a doughy ball when you chew it, and has a shelf life that defies what real bread should be capable of. Real bread goes stale in 2 to 3 days. This stuff sits for over a week. That alone should tell you something. Number 6. Romano pasta sauce. Romano is Aldi's Italian-style range, and the pasta sauces look the part. Nice jar, Mediterranean imagery, the word traditional, somewhere on the label, traditional. Right. A 280-gram jar of Romano tomato basil pasta sauce contains over 600 milligrams of sodium. That's more than 25% of the recommended daily sodium intake for an adult in a single serving. For retired Australians managing blood pressure, and the Australian Bureau of Statistics tells us that over 34% of Australians aged 75 and over have high blood pressure that's not a blood pressure. Minor detail. That is a genuine health concern hiding behind a nice label. And when you look at the tomato content, it's largely tomato paste, reconstituted with water, not fresh or crushed whole tomatoes. Italian law actually distinguishes between authentic sugo and industrially reconstituted sauces. What Romano sells doesn't come close to the former. The flavor reflects this. It's thin, overly sweet, and has that canned, metallic undertone that real tomatoes simply don't produce. You're not getting Italian tradition. You're getting a high-sodium, reconstituted tomato paste with basil flavoring and a pretty jar. Number 5. Westacre cheddar cheese. I love cheese. Proper cheese. And cheddar. Real Australian cheddar is one of the great simple pleasures. But Westacre, Aldi's block cheddar, is where I draw the line. The texture is the first giveaway. It's rubbery. Not firm like aged cheddar should be rubbery. That happens when manufacturers reduce the aging time significantly and use enzyme-modified cheese processes to artificially develop flavor without the time investment. Proper cheddar is aged a minimum of 3 months for mild and up to 12 months or beyond for vintage. Budget block cheeses sold under private label often target 6 to 8 weeks of aging, sometimes less. Australian cheddar producers have spoken openly in trade publications like Dairy News Australia about the pressure private label contracts put on artisan cheesemakers. The price point Aldi demands per kilogram forces compromises in milk quality, aging duration, and process standards. What ends up in the block is a product that melts oddly, has a faint plasticky aftertaste, and doesn't deliver the sharp, complex flavor that real cheddar should have. If you're putting this on a cracker or melting it on toast, you deserve actual cheese, not a processed approximation of it. Number 4. Monarch orange juice. Monarch is Aldi's juice brand, and their orange juice sits in that frustrating middle ground. It doesn't say fresh squeezed, but it implies freshness through its packaging and marketing. What you're actually getting is reconstituted juice. Juice that was squeezed, reduced to concentrate, shipped, stored, and then reconstituted with water before being packaged. Here's what that process does. It strips out volatile aroma, compounds the things that make orange juice taste like an actual orange. A 2012 study in the journal Food Chemistry found that reconstitution significantly reduces the concentration of terpene aroma compounds, which are the primary contributors to fresh orange flavor and fragrance. What you're left with is something that tastes flat, slightly artificial, and overly sweet without the brightness of real juice. Monarch's orange juice also contains added flavor packs, concentrates of recovered orange essences that manufacturers add back in post-reconstitution to simulate freshness. These are technically derived from oranges, so they don't have to be separately declared on the label. You'd never know. But your taste buds already do. If you're paying for orange juice, you should be getting orange juice. Not a chemistry project that once started its life as one. Number 3. Litton's crackers. Litton's is Aldi's cracker brand, and they show up in a lot of Australian households' cheese nights. A quick snack with a cup of tea? I get it. But flip that box around and read the ingredients. Palm oil. It's in there. 10, 10, 10, 10. Australia imports hundreds of thousands of tons of palm oil annually, and the environmental concerns are well documented. The Rainforest Alliance and WWF Australia have both published damning assessments of the unsustainable palm oil supply chains used by major food manufacturers. But beyond the environmental issue, palm oil is high in saturated fat, and unlike the saturated fat in dairy, which comes with nutritional cofactors, refined palm oil delivers saturated fat with virtually nothing beneficial alongside it. Litton's crackers also use artificial flavor compounds to simulate a buttery, baked taste because the actual base ingredients don't deliver it naturally. That artificial flavor lingers. People on Australian product forums have described it as a slightly chemical aftertaste that sits in the back of your throat after a handful of crackers. For a product you're eating as a snack with real cheese or dip, I want something clean, simple, and honest. Litton's is none of those things. Number 2. Specially selected ice cream. Now, this one genuinely frustrates me because Specially Selected is supposed to be Aldi's premium range. The one where they said, alright, we're going to do this properly, and the ice cream looks premium. Fancy tub, nice fonts, flavors like Belgian chocolate and Madagascan vanilla. But look at what's holding that ice cream together. Carob bean gum, guar gum, locust bean gum, multiple vegetable-derived stabilizers that are used to compensate for lower dairy fat content. Real premium ice cream, the kind you get from a proper Australian dairy, uses cream, milk, eggs, and sugar. That's it. The fat content carries the texture and the mouthfeel naturally. When you need 3 different gums to hold your ice cream together, it means the dairy fat content isn't high enough to do the job on its own. A 2017 analysis of Australian private label frozen desserts published through CSIRO-affiliated food research found that store-brand premium ice creams consistently showed lower overrun standards, meaning more air was incorporated than equivalent branded products. More air means less actual product per scoop. You're literally paying for air. It looks premium. It is not premium. Number 1. Forester's sausages. And here we are. Number 1. And honestly, this one makes me angry. Because sausages are one of the most Australian foods there is, a snag on the barbie is practically a cultural institution. And Forester's Aldi's sausage range is doing that institution dirty. Meat content is the issue. Australian food standards require that a product labelled as a beef or pork sausage must contain a minimum of 50% meat. Forester's sits right around that minimum threshold, which means up to half of what's in your sausage is filler cereal binders, soy protein isolate, water, and a sodium content that sits between 700 and 800 milligrams per 100 grams. That is extraordinarily high. Independent testing by Choice Australia of budget supermarket sausages found that private label options consistently ranked lowest for meat flavour intensity and texture firmness, both of buy, which correlate directly to actual meat content. When you cook a Forester's sausage, it splits early, releases a significant amount of liquid fat and water, and shrinks noticeably all signs of low meat-to-filler ratio. This is Australia. We deserve a proper sausage, not a filler log in a skin. Leave Forester's on the shelf. Alright, enough of the bad stuff. Let me show you the 5 Aldi products that actually earn their place in your trolley. Number 5. Harvest Morn Wheat Bix Style Biscuits Simple. Honest, whole grain wheat, minimal additives, and a nutritional profile that holds up against the Sanitarium Original. A standard serve of Harvest Morn wheat biscuits contains around 3 grams of dietary fibre and less than 1 gram of added sugar, virtually identical to the branded equivalent. For retired Australians, fibre is not a nice to have. The Gut Foundation of Australia links adequate dietary fibre intake directly to reduced risk of colorectal cancer, improved bowel regularity, and better blood glucose management. At a fraction of the price of Sanitarium, Harvest Morn is one of Aldi's genuinely no-nonsense wins. Number 4. Brookley Natural Peanut Butter. Brookley's Natural Peanut Butter. 2 ingredients, peanuts and salt. That's it. No added sugar, no palm oil, no stabilizers, no hydrogenated vegetable fat. Just ground peanuts. A 2021 Harvard School of Public Health study reaffirmed that regular consumption of natural peanut butter, free from added sugars and hydrogenated oils, is associated with reduced LDL cholesterol and improved cardiovascular outcomes. For older Australians looking for a protein-rich, affordable spread that doesn't come loaded with hidden sugars, Brookley Natural Peanut Butter is genuinely one of the cleanest products in that store. Number 3. Newdale Greek Yogurt. Newdale's Greek Yogurt is a product I'd stack against most branded Greek yogurts in any Australian supermarket. Per 100 grams, it delivers around 8 to 9 grams of protein comparable to Chobani, and it uses live probiotic cultures. Confirmed through Aldi Australia's product specification sheets. For gut health, bone health, and protein intake in older adults, Greek yogurt is one of the most nutrient-dense, affordable foods available. The Australian Dietary Guidelines specifically recommend fermented dairy for adults over 65 due to its probiotic and calcium content. Newdale delivers that without the inflated Chobani price tag. This one earns its spot. Number 2. Oat. So simple rolled oats. Oats. The most underrated food in any pantry. Aldi's oat. So simple rolled oats are 100% whole grain oats. Nothing added, nothing removed. The beta-glucan fiber content in a standard 70-gram serve is approximately 3 grams, the same threshold the European Food Safety Authority has established as the minimum required for meaningful LDL cholesterol. Reduction claims. 3 grams of beta-glucan daily consistently has been shown in clinical trials to reduce LDL cholesterol by 5 to 10% over 6 to 8 weeks. For retired Australians managing cholesterol through diet rather than medication alone, this is a real food doing a real job. And Aldi sells it for less than $2 a bag. Number 1. Specially selected extra virgin olive oil. And the number 1 Aldi product worth buying. And I mean, this is their specially selected extra virgin olive oil. I know what you're thinking. How is Aldi olive oil going to be any good? But hear me out. This oil is imported from either Spain or Greece, depending on the seasonal batch, and Aldi Australia has been transparent about sourcing in their product documentation. It carries a low free fatty acid content below 0.5%, which is the chemical marker of genuine, cold-pressed, first extraction extra virgin quality. By comparison, several branded olive oils sold in Australian supermarkets, including some that charge 4 times the price, have been found in international olive oil quality audits to fail the extra virgin standard due to adulteration with refined oils. A 2015 UC Davis study widely cited in the Australian food media found that over 50% of imported olive oils labelled extra virgin in retail stores failed international quality standards. Aldi's Specially Selected wasn't among them in Australian testing rounds. Polyphenol content in genuine extra virgin olive oil is one of the most well-researched anti-inflammatory compounds available through diet. The Predimed trial, one of the largest nutrition studies ever conducted, found that Mediterranean diets rich in extra virgin olive oil reduced cardiovascular event risk by 30% in high-risk adults. For the Sendi NC price Aldi charges, this is exceptional value. This is the one product in that store I genuinely recommend without hesitation.